Now, the question at hand today is, can AI be responsible? And when I say responsible, what I really mean is ethical. And there's this really delicate equilibrium that we have regarding how do we actually achieve ethical AI in practice. And this is a question that really requires us to take a multifaceted approach, because at the heart of this is a challenge that is all about how do we harness the transformative potential of AI while simultaneously ensuring the alignment back to core human values and principles. Now, when we talk about ethical AI, what we're really going to dive into are all the different components of transparency, data privacy, and responsible machine learning, which are all the key pillars of ethical AI. When we talk about transparency in AI, it's really about how do we have insight into the development processes and how do we have validations of our machine learning models. And this is going to be essential for building user trust. By openly communicating the approach that we are taking to development practices in relation to AI, we ensure that organizations can demonstrate a true commitment to ethical practices and also really empower stakeholders to provide meaningful feedback. And a big component of this is also going to be all about data governance. So how do we ensure that we have policies and consent management? Because all of that is going to be crucial for ensuring data privacy. In this component, when we talk about ethical AI, it's all about how do we establish clear guidelines, and this is going to be around data collection, storage, and then also usage. Now, we talk about how do we take this on. So it's this paradox of embracing AI, but also approaching it from an ethical perspective. And this is really all about how do we maintain control over these increasingly complex and opaque AI systems. Now, I've mentioned before the transparency, data privacy, and responsible machine learning, all as crucial elements. But the reality is that the control over AI and whether or not it is ethical, it's not just going to be about managing the technologies. It's also going to be about managing our expectations and also being honest with ourselves from an organizational standpoint about the sheer complexity of these technologies. So even as we start to strive about how do we design and deploy AI responsibly, we have to also acknowledge that perfectly ethical AI may or may not remain an elusive goal for us. So it's a little bit less about how do we achieve absolute control and more so about how do we embrace the challenges that come with AI deployments with transparency of effort. Now, when we talk about the ethical AI and the premise of it all, there's a myth that revolves around having total control over artificial intelligence systems. So it's hard to really predict with certainty how AI systems will behave, especially as they are starting to become more complex and we're starting to interact with real-world scenarios. The algorithms powering the models can sometimes be opaque, very much a black box, if you will. And a lot of the time, as we start evolving our training data, we start to see that we have a lot of oversight and management that needs to happen on the back end of our systems. And all of this complexity really makes it so that our leaders have to start thinking about how do they guarantee responsible AI and what are the inherent characteristics of these technologies that are going to make true control somewhat unattainable. So as we talk about the black box of algorithms, what we are really talking about is how do we start to think about what we're going to do in terms of embracing explainability of our models? what do we mean if we say that we have a commitment to mitigating harm when it comes to humans who are interacting with our AI systems? So as a leader, we have to think about ethical AI as something that is going to be a core tenet of an organization's culture rather than just a box to be checked.